This is Chapter 6, Video 4, and it goes with Section 6.5 in your book. In this section, we're actually going to learn or look at 3 different kinds of problems. So we're going to talk about how to find a percent change. So that could either be a percent increase if the number has gone up, or a percent decrease if the value or the number has gone down. We're going to look at finding a new amount, and then finding percent error. So those 3 types of problems, and we'll go through how to tell them apart and how to set each of those up. Okay, for the first one, for percent change, the clues or the keywords that you're going to look for in the problem are if the problem tells you it was this value and now it's this value, right? It was something, but now it's this. And the question might say, find either the percent change, the percent increase, or the percent decrease. So the wording could have any of those in the question. So you should have these written down as the kind of clue words for this kind of problem. And then let's talk about the formula for it. So the formula for percent change problems is going to be how much did it change? How much was the change, or how much did it change compared to whatever the original amount was. Okay, so this would be the original in time. The one that came first, the one that happened first, okay? And when you divide those, that's going to give you a decimal, and then you need to convert that, right? Move the decimal point over and convert that to a percent. So what I would write down, what I always write down as my work, is this delta, right? The Greek letter delta is just a triangle, and that means change over original. So when you hear me say the formula, I just say over and over again, change over original, change over original. So we want to make sure that we are clear. If the value has gone up, we find a percent increase, and we would label it as such. And when the value has gone down, we would be finding a percent decrease. And those 2 words are really important to put on your answer so that anybody looking at your work would know, hey, it went up this much or it went down this much. Okay, so let's try a few examples. If I'm at 11 inches down from 19 inches, and I want to know what was the percent change to go from 19 to 11, well, I'm going to write my formula, change over original. And how much did it change between these 2? Well, it went down 8, so that's my change. And then my original number, the one that happened first, right, it was 19 is my original number. And that would be what I type into my calculator to divide. And I get a decimal. So type that in with me. You should get 0.0, so 0.421. And if you turn that into a percent, 42.1%, and it went down, right? So I need to say that's a percent decrease. Okay, I'll do a couple more. 37 people to 94 people. Well, start with your formula every time, change over original. The change, right, if I just subtract these 2 numbers to figure out how much it changed, so in my calculator, I would do 94 minus 37, and I realized that it went up by 57 people. The original number, right, it started here at 37, and if I type that into my calculator and divide, go ahead and do that. 57 divided by 37, I get this. So there's my decimal answer, and I need to turn it into a percent, okay? So I move my decimal point over. 154%, and let's see, it went up, so that would be an increase. Okay. All right, let's check one more together down here. From 17 to 33. So I'm going to write my formula, change over original. From 17 to 33, I would subtract those in my head or on my calculator, and I realized that the change was 16 degrees, right? It went up 16 degrees. The original number was the 17, and if I divide those on my calculator, I get this, or 94%. Then I just have to decide if it's an increase or a decrease. And since it went up, increase. Okay, so there are 3 more on the next line. Okay, so go ahead and try these. Pause, and then we'll come back and check. Okay, so for each of these, I wrote out the formula first. Then I figured out how much it changed between the numbers to put on top, and then divided by the original number. Okay, remember, you're always going to get a decimal in your calculator, and then convert that decimal to a percent. All right, on a quiz or in your homework assignments, make sure you're labeling it if it's an increase or a decrease. Did it go up or did it go down? Okay. All right, there's one more story problem here for the refrigerator. So the price went from $295 to $320. So try that one quick. Pause. Okay, so I just subtracted between the two numbers to figure out how much the price went up. It went up $25 compared to the original $295. I got a decimal when I divided that, and then just turn it into a percent and label it because the price went up. It's an increase. Okay, the next kind of problem is called a new amount problem. So this one, your clue words or your keywords here are, in the problem it'll say it was this amount or this value, but then it went up or down a certain percentage. Okay, so for example, it was 18, but then it increased or decreased. You might see that too. Increased or decreased a certain percentage. And then the problem might say, what is it now? So this is a big clue that they're looking for the new value. What is it now? Okay. So let's talk about the steps for this one. This one has 2 steps. Okay, step 1, find the part. And we've already done lots of problems in 6.3 and 6.4 where we were finding the part, right? We use A to signify the part. And you could do that, right, one of 2 ways. We know how to do it with a proportion or the equation. In either of those cases, you're going to be finding A, the part. Okay, so pick which one you want to use, set it up, and find A. Obviously, that means they're going to be giving you the percent and the whole, and you're looking for A. And then once you get that A, you're either going to add it or subtract it to whatever the original amount was, right? If it went up by that much, you'd add. If it went down by that much, you'd subtract to figure out what your new value is. Okay, so here's a few examples we'll do together. Starting at 160 students, but it's increasing by 18%. What is it now? Okay, so step 1 is to find A. I prefer to probably use the equation, but you could do the proportion here. So the equation says P times W. So I'm just going to take my percent as a decimal, multiply it by my whole, and see what I get there. Go ahead and type that in, or you can see we would get 28.8. Okay, so it's increasing by 28.8 students. So that means I'm going to add that many onto what I already had. So step 2 is I was at 160, I'm increasing it 28.8, and that makes it 188.8 students. Don't worry about decimals here. I know you can't have 0.8, but that's okay. All right, let's try the next one. $250 decreased by 30%. Well, step 1 would be figure out how much that 30% is. So we can do the proportion this time if you want. We'll do one this way so we can see how it works. All right, so the $250 is my whole. Decreased by 30%, so 30 would go here. And I'm going to cross multiply to get my A, right? So finish that work with me. Let's see. 100A equals that. Finish solving for A. Okay. So A, the part, is 75. Well, if it decreased by 75, it was 250. And it decreased by 75, that would bring it down to 175. Okay? All right, let's do one more and then I'll let you practice. Okay, 80 degrees decreased by 5%. Well, step one, let's find how much 5% is. So A equals P times W. My percent is 0.05. Careful there, right? For 5% times 80 degrees. Type that into your calculator quick. I get 4. Okay, so if the temperature decreased by 4, right, that 5% is really 4 degrees. Well, that means the new temperature is 76 degrees. Okay, so I've given you a few story problems on the next slide or the next page. All right, let's just read them together really quick. Your most recent science test score was 18% higher than last time. The original, the first time, right? If you got 30 points before, how many points do you get now? All right, so really this is saying what is 18% more than 30. Okay, and then I'll read this next one too, and then I want you to set them up. Your dog is on a diet. He used to weigh 85 pounds, but he has lost 14% of his weight. How much does he weigh now? Okay, so that's saying start with 85 and take 14% of it away. So let's try both of those. Pause here. Try those. Okay, so for the first one, I found A, and I got 5.4. And since it's that much higher, right, it went up that much, I'm going to add the 5.4, and so now my new score would be 35.4. Okay, the one about the dog, I found 14% of 85 is 11.9 pounds. Okay, so if he is on a diet and he lost that much, that's how much I would be subtracting. So original 85 pounds minus 11.9, and that brings it to 73.1 pounds. Okay, the next kind of problem is percent error. So the clues here in the problem, they're going to tell you that you either guessed or estimated or you thought it was one thing and really it was something else, or actually, or the correct answer was something different. Okay, so in all of these types of questions, you thought it was one thing and it really ended up being something else, and the question might say, what was your percent error? Okay, so the formula for this is how much were you off by? Okay, but I usually just shorten that to say off. And you're going to divide it by the actual or the correct answer or the correct number, right? When you divide that into your calculator, you get a decimal, and then you're going to need to turn that decimal into a percent and label it as percent error. Okay, so there's two examples we'll try here. You guessed it was 88, but it was actually 92. So I'm going to write my formula. Okay, well, looking at these two numbers, looks like you were off by, 6 degrees? The correct number was 92, and if I divide that on my calculator, I get a decimal, or 4.3% error. Okay, let's do one more. The cost was 36, but you only estimated that it was going to be 30. So formula, actual. All right, looks like you were off by 6. The correct number was 36. And when I divide those in your calculator, should get 16.6% error. Okay. So we're almost out of time, but I want you to pause and try these, and then at the very end, we'll put the answers up. Okay, and check these.